Read what they say. Read what they think. Read what they put out in the schools they run, even those schools in this country called madrasas that are paid for mostly by the Saudis. And hear what's being taught to the children in those schools. And believe me, it's got nothing to do with even our support for Israel. If Israel did not exist, I'm telling you, we would be in this conflict. And we have to be aware of it. We have to know exactly who we are. And this sort of cult of multiculturalism that has permeated our society for way too long, that keeps denigrating us for everything. We're the problem. It's American society. We've done everything wrong. Western civilization is at fault. No, Western civilization is not at fault. Western civilization is at stake. That is undeniably true. But it is not at fault. We have brought many great things to this world, not the least of which is the rule of law. And we are looking every single day at things happening in this country which are actually destroying our ability to connect together as Americans. And if we don't do that, my friends, if we don't do that, I assure you there is no hope for Western civilization, because we are the last best hope of Western civilization. It won't be Europe. We saved Europe. We saved Europe. We saved the world. Those people who did serve, God bless them all. I cannot tell you. I mean, we could heap accolades upon you for decades, and should. We did not just save Europe, we saved the world. Well, can we rely on Europe, do you think, to come to our aid when we now face a serious threat, and the threat is to Western civilization? When 20 million Muslims now live in Europe, while the largest mosque in the world is being built in London, when the most popular name for a male child today in several cities throughout Europe is Muhammad. We cannot assume that the rest of Western civilization will come to our aid. It's us. When the lights go off here, they go off every place. So this is the confrontation we face. And this is what we have to understand. What the nature of our enemy really is. It's not terrorism. Terrorism is a tactic. It's not the thing with which you can actually be at war. It's the tactic used by the people with whom you are at war. You have to know who you're fighting, and you also have to know who you are. Who are we as Americans? Do we connect to each other as Americans anymore? Do we believe in that first? Then we divide up in all these other things, liberal, conservative, independent, anything else. I worry because I believe our society is balkanizing, dividing up, linguistic lines, ethnic lines, cutting up and not thinking of themselves anymore as Americans, but just as residents of the North American continent. And you've got the president of Mexico saying the other day, telling the Mexican people, to wildly cheering crowds, that there is no northern border, and that Mexico extends as far as there are Mexicans. Wherever there's a Mexican, that's where Mexico is, he said. Now that's a ridiculous statement, but even more ridiculous is that no one in our government, not a soul, not the president, not the secretary of the state, nobody said something like, "Are you nuts? There's a border." And that border means something. That border is a place that separates one country from another. And yes, I want to see a fence. You bet your life I do. And not just 700 miles. I want it on 2,000 miles of that border. And then I want to start on the northern border if I have to, because I'll tell you what. We absolutely have to define the idea. It's maybe hard to believe this anymore, that we have to tell people there is a border. You know, and it really does separate countries. And trade arrangements are not going to erase that border. And we're not going to go into this goofy North American trade deal, the SPP, and any of that other stuff that is a threat to our sovereignty. Trade, you can have trade. You don't have to give up sovereignty to get it, which we are doing through these other kinds of mechanisms. As I was told when I was arguing with this issue with a Mexican official, head of the Ministry for it was called the Ministry for Mexicans Living in the United States, and we had quite an argument. At the end of it, he said to me, look, Congressman, it's not two countries, it's just a region. Now, I'm telling you, he's not the only one that feels that way. Not just in Mexico, but here in the United States. So, you know, this country has a great history of defending its liberty. When people see the flag falling, they do pick it up. They have sacrificed, you know, from Bellawood to Flight 93. All we're asking is this next generation, is it going to do the same thing? Does it understand what's at stake? Will it be willing to do exactly the same thing? Do we have a leader who will actually make that happen? Who will be willing to talk about these issues even though they're uncomfortable? Do we have someone, do we have anyone? I want to ask you, you think on that stage who's willing to do it? I guarantee you I am. And I guarantee you I believe we have to. Because it is, in fact, it's our flag. When you see it falling, you pick it up. It is our culture. You have to fight for it. It is our nation. We have to take it back. Thank you very much. Thank you.